Well, we have an extraordinary question that is posed to Jesus today. We are being taken back a little bit in time from the experiences that the disciples have of the risen Lord. And we're taken back into the Last Supper, where Jesus talks to his disciples and teaches them about the nature of God, the nature of his own ministry, and how they may take that forward. And he comes up with a number of quite clear statements. Most famously, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And then Philip says, show us the Father, and we shall be satisfied. So what's so extraordinary about that statement? Jesus' response, I think, is slightly irritated. Have I been with you all this time and you still don't get it? You still don't get that the Father and I are one. What you see in me is the very nature of God revealed in a human life. How frustrating that must be for him. Those disciples have travelled with him for 3.5 years. He's taught them. He's shown them what the nature of God is like, both in his miracles, in his healing, in his teaching, and in his compassion, and in his love. And right at the end of that ministry, one of them says, we still don't get it. Give us a clue. So I want to just go off on a little diversion for a moment. I want to imagine that you're meeting a visitor to Lincoln. They've done all the sights. And one question you want to ask them is, what did you think of the cathedral? And their description of it goes something like this. Well, it's a very big building at the top of a hill. As you walk round it, you see lots of statues. You can see some birds nesting up in the eaves. And if you look up at the windows, you can see some patterns. And what else did you notice? Well, it's very big. It's very imposing. Okay, and what else did you notice? Went for a cup of tea down Steep Hill afterwards. Did you go in? Oh no, we just went to look at the building. Our experience sometimes can be limited by our capacity to open up ourselves to our imagination, to that God-given sense that opens up so many worlds to us. Like that tourist, we can skirt around the outside of things. We can look at them, we can admire them, we can wonder at the architecture. But its full beauty will not be revealed until we enter into it, to see what the experience of being inside that place is actually like. And we know that when we go into a great cathedral, when you come into this parish church, it's a very different experience from seeing it from the outside. On the inside, you get the sense of colour, of presence, of prayer, of ministry, of God. You might get that from the outside, but actually going inside and opening yourself up to that experience is very, very different. So you might be saying to yourself now, okay, what's that got to do with the gospel? Well, from my point of view, Philip is one of these people who has described what he's seen with Jesus. He's looked on from the outside, but somehow he's never got in to the depths of what Jesus is about. He's never entered imaginatively into, okay, so if this is what the love of God is like, how do I respond to that in my life today? How do I enter into the beauty of what that means for me? How do I see the glowing colours of God's love in this place? And that's what Jesus is always trying to do with his disciples, what he's always trying to do with us, is take us from that place of looking on and describing to a place where we really inhabit and experience what God's love is all about. The only way we can do that is through that experience of Christ. Christ leading us, taking us into this place where he says, look over there, look at the ordinary things of life and see within them God. Look at this guy over here, throwing his few seeds around. What does that tell us about God? Look at that woman over there with her little offering in the temple. What does that tell us about God? Look at that shepherd looking after that sheep. What does that tell us about God? And he reveals through his stories and through his life a world of beauty, of imagination, of love, of compassion and faith. We have to make the effort to open the doors of our prayer, of our hearts and of our souls, to enter in and to experience it. We do that through our worship. We do that through our prayer. We do that through encountering Christ in the everyday. Look at that woman going down to the shop to buy her groceries. What does that tell us about God? Look at that man who is doing some work in a charity. What does that tell us about God? Look at that child showing us what love is all about. What does that tell us about God? It's very easy to remain on the outside looking in. But Jesus doesn't give us that option. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life. If you follow in that way, you will find the truth and you will experience my life. So open yourselves up to his possibilities. Remember that Christ revealed the image of God to us in the ordinary and in the everyday. And as you approach the gates of your prayer, and you allow them to open, go in and experience the wonder and the colour of God's love, of his grace and of his beauty. And remember that as you enter that place, you are guided by Christ, who is our way, who is the truth, and who is the life. Amen.